All right, I have us on Psalm 13. How long, O Lord? And I have this as a song, a psalm of David, which must be a song because it was to the choir master. Do you have that theme, Kathy?
Yeah. The theme, praying for relief from despair. We must continue to trust God even when he doesn't answer us immediately. Author is David. How appropriate is that,
Yeah.
Amber?
Hmm. All right,
Sorry,
Psalm
I was
13.
muted. Yeah, that's pretty timely. I'll take it.
How long, O Yahweh, is how the okay. This version is John MacArthur's that I'm going to read from, and it's a different version. It's what was it? Let me see here. It was a Legacy Standard. Um, I often like the ESV, but I do kind of like that he uses Yahweh in this. Verse 1. How long, O Yahweh, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart all the day? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? 3. Look and answer me, O Yahweh my God. Give light to my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemy says, I have overcome him, and my adversaries rejoice that I am shaken. Verse 5. But I have trusted in your loving kindness. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. Verse 6. I will sing to Yahweh because he has dealt bountifully with me. The end of 13. Any thoughts before I read John's commentary?
I love the how longs.
Oh,
Yes, that was my comment as well.
good point.
My
Yep.
Bible, for verse 1, it says, sometimes all we need to do is talk over a problem with a friend to help put it in perspective. In this psalm, the phrase how long occurs 4 times in the first 2 verses, indicating the depth of David's distress. David expressed his feelings to God and found strength. By the end of his prayer, he was able to express hope and trust in God. Through prayer, we can express our feelings and talk our problems out with God. He helps us regain the right perspective, and that gives us peace.
Amen.
References Habakkuk 3:17 to 19.
That distress, is that one S or two S's? It's D I
2.
S Diss?
Distress.
Oh, okay, TR. My brain was, I like that depth of distress.
Yeah.
Anybody else before I start reading the commentary? All right, 13. There's a little overview. It says Psalm 13 launches with an explosion of four how longs, indicating another lament is about to begin. But David will shift radically from turmoil to tranquility in the space of 6 short verses through 3 levels of attitude. The first level is below sea level, expressions of despair in verses 1 and 2. The second level is sea level, expressions of desires in verses 3 and 4. And then the third level is the mountaintop level, expressions of delight in verses 5 and 6. Does anybody need me to repeat those?
Very first one.
The very first one is below sea level. So he's saying he starts out with below sea level with despair.
Okay, that's what I didn't hear.
Yeah. The second one is at sea level with his desires. And then the third one is the mountaintop level with delight. 1 and 2, which is the below sea level expressions of despair. These lines reintroduce the familiar triangle of the psalmist, his God, and his enemies. This three-way relationship produces perplexity and pain. In view of God's apparent absence, he seems left on his own resources, which are unable to deal with the reality of his enemies. verses 4b through 5b. Rejoice, rejoice. Using the same verb, he deliberately contrasts his enemy's celebration with his own confidence in divine deliverance. Oh, I didn't notice that. Rejoice, rejoice. Oh, that's it for 13. Using the same verb, he deliberately contrasts his enemy's celebration with his own confidence. Okay. Kathy?
Okay. Psalm 13. This psalm was probably written during David's difficult years of exile when King Saul was pursuing him. There were times when he confessed, "There is but a step between me and death." By the grace of God, David turned his sufferings into songs and left those songs behind to encourage us in our trials. In this brief psalm, David deals with his feelings, his foes, and his faith. The inward struggle, his feelings, verses 1 and 2. God had promised David the throne of Israel, yet that day of coronation seemed further and further away. Saul was doing evil things and God wasn't judging him, and yet David was doing good things and felt abandoned by the Lord. David was certainly disturbed by what the enemy was doing, but he was more concerned about what the Lord was not doing. How long is a familiar question in Scripture, and is a perfectly good question to ask if your heart is right with God. The saints in heaven even ask it, Revelation 6:10. When we're in trouble and pray for help, but none comes, we tend to feel deserted. David felt that God was ignoring him and that this alienation was final and complete. He also felt that God was hiding his face from him instead of smiling upon him. To behold God's face by faith and see his glory was always an encouragement to David, but now he felt abandoned. Feeling like he was left himself, David tried to devise various ways to overcome the enemy, but nothing seemed to satisfy him. But faith is living without scheming. It means not leaning on our own experiences and skills and trying to plot our own schedule. Reference to Proverbs 3, 5, and 6.
That makes me, can we pause for a moment? Like, that makes me feel like, you know, how we, or I should say, I, in the last 5 years, has been like so down the rabbit holes and trying to figure things out. And it's like after a while, you're like, you know what? I'm just going to trust the Lord. Like, I'm going to ask him for discernment and I'm just going to live life and let him lead and guide. Like, I feel like we're like the devil will take a lot of our energy in trying to make us feel like we have to figure it out. What do you?
I agree, because I'm like you. Of course, Brett tends to take me down some of these rabbit holes, and and I finally just look at him sometimes and say, "Well, Brett, you know what? I can't control it, and I can pray about it, but God's in control. We know the end. I can't control it. Do I like what's happening? No, but
And I feel like too, like it was such a good diversion. Like sometimes we're in the rabbit holes of life so much that we're not with God.
Yeah.
Like we're reading and focusing and watching videos and doing all this stuff, but we're not really like spending time with God. So it's such a great scheme of
Yeah.
diversion.
I
And
definitely think that's a
Yeah.
lesson I'm learning right now through my season is the first month I was frantic and panic, like, how is this going to work? How is God going to work this out? And here we are in month 3, and my panic has lessened because I've realized I need to quit trying to control this. I have zero control over this, and I have to let God figure it out.
yeah, you can do what you do. I think that doesn't mean that you sometimes don't have to like realign or
Right.
you have
Yeah.
your moments, but like then saying,
Yep.
I just trust in you, Lord, like you're gonna work it
Yep.
out.
Yep.
I've done what I can do, and I don't know what else to do.
Right.
Mhm.
Show me, or just help me wait.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. There were storm clouds in the sky, hiding the sun, but the sun was still shining. It's a dangerous thing to give in to our feelings because feelings are deceptive and undependable. Jeremiah 17:9. When Jacob heard the news about Simeon being left hostage in Egypt, he gave up and announced that everything was against him, when actually God was causing everything to work for him. We must not deny our feelings and pretend that everything is going well, and there is no sin in asking how long. But at the same time, we must realize how deceptive our feelings are and that God is greater than our hearts, 1 John 3:20, and can lift us above the emotional storms of life. David eventually learned to replace the question, "How long, O Lord?" with the affirmation, "My times are in your hands." This is a lesson that all believers must learn. The outward danger, his foes, verses 3 and 4. It's good to have peace within you, but you also need protection around you. That's why David prayed to the Lord and made three requests. The first was, "Look on me," a plea for the Lord to fix his eyes on his servant and scrutinize him. David felt that God had hidden his face and he wanted him to turn his face toward him again. His second request was that the Lord answer him and send some kind of encouragement. David felt he had been deserted and that his prayers were accomplishing nothing. "Give light to my eyes" was the third prayer. This involved not only spiritual enlightenment, but also physical and emotional vitality and strength. When the mind and body are weary, how easy it is to be discouraged. Perhaps David was even ill and in danger of death. If he died, what would happen to the throne of Israel? As much as David was concerned about his own needs, he was concerned even more with the glory of God in verse 4. After all, God had chosen David and had commanded Saul to anoint him king, and if David failed, God's name would be ridiculed. "Don't allow the enemy to gloat over me," was his prayer. The word "moved" in verse 4 means to waver, to be agitated, to totter and shake. If David began to waver, the faithful people of the land would think that God was unable to fulfill his own promises. The upward look, his faith, verses 5 and 6. The little word "but" indicates a transition from fear to faith and from questioning to claiming God's promises. In their false confidence, let the enemy rejoice, but David will rejoice in the Lord his God. David's feelings had been on a roller coaster, but God was still on the throne, and his character had not changed. God's mercy, or steadfast love, was all that David needed, for it would never fail. God's people don't live on explanations, they live on promises, and those promises are as unchanging as the character of God. "According to your faith, be it unto you." Matthew 9:29. Relying on the Lord leads to rejoicing in the Lord and his salvation. The word "bountiful" focuses on the goodness of God and his generosity in dealing with his people in grace. The NIV translates it, "The Lord has been good to me." David's circumstances haven't changed, but the Lord has changed him. And that occurred when David stopped looking at his feelings and his foes, and by faith started looking to the Lord. The end.
I like that. The Lord has been good to me. Any other thoughts or anything anybody wants to share? Mine has a little side note. It said the Psalms are songs, not theological essays, and they express the psalmist's honest thoughts and heartfelt emotions. In this song, David expressed his anguish to God as he repeatedly asked, "How long?" Exhausted and weary, David's questions represent more of a tearful plea than a search for informational answers. Similarly, Jesus called out to God in his desperation. After telling his disciples that his soul was very sorrowful, even to death, he went away to pray alone. My Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will, in Matthew 26:38 and 39. These historic accounts not only validate the human need to express oneself openly to God, but also they teach an important lesson. Both David and Jesus did more than lament. They asked God for help, and they declared their willingness to trust in Him. David spoke of God's love and works, while Jesus readily surrendered to his Father's will. How often are God's people guilty of lamenting without trusting, or conversely, of declaring faith without an honest expression of the heart? The holistic expression of this psalm, lament, ask, and trust, is a model worth emulating. I like that. Lament, ask, trust. Anybody else have anything that they want to contribute for Psalm 13?
This whole chapter was really special to me. Give me insight.
Anything in particular that really stood out?
Of putting him before our own thoughts. It's like the end there where David's circumstances hadn't changed, but God changed him.
It made me realize my reaction is out of order. Like I'm not trusting him first, I'm trusting him last.
Yeah.
After I walk through all the other stuff.
Then you're like, oh, by the way,
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah.
Forgot to
Yep.
check in with you.
Yeah.
I think I can be kind of normal too. Like at first you're like dealing with the situation and then you get desperate and you realize I can't control this. Then it's like, oh, by the way.
Seems like every time I have to get to that point before I realize it. I don't know why. Like, why is it not an instant reaction? God's got this, you know? It's just not like that for me. I don't know
But
why.
don't you think that's part of training though? Like in James, when it says when you go through trials and tribulations, it's to strengthen you and to hone you. Like when you like go through that, then you learn over time as you mature. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. There's been times in my life where I have done that well, and this is just not one of those times for me for some reason.
Reminds me of that song, He's Still Working on Me.
And I think that's something I have to realize too, is it's a lifelong journey of it. Like it's not like, you know, you're never going to have to stop working on it. It's always going to be a journey until you go to heaven. So,
Yeah.
no.
But hopefully what happens is you will then teach your children and they won't have to be your age learning it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the mentoring part of you've been around this mountain. So
Yeah.
anybody else? Lori, you had unmuted. Were you going to say? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was thinking this morning about, I was just thinking about family and, you know, I pray often for Chad and Kayla.
Hmm.
And even though they haven't had anything to do with us, when Kayla was small, I took her to church with me and Bible school and tried to be a good influence. Apparently I wasn't too good. I don't know. But, you know, I think about the things we try to do for our kids or grandkids, and it doesn't look like we succeeded in anything. But hopefully there was something there that at some time in their life pops up.
Yeah. I believe there is. Like you plant the seeds, they don't go unharvested. You know what I mean? Like if you're planting seeds, God will harvest those seeds. But I think about my dad. He was 60 before he took the Lord seriously. And my grandpa's heart was broke all those years because he lived the life of the wayward son. And you know what they thought was um but he can't, you know, he did come to salvation. I just don't believe any seed that you plant is goes unharvested.
And I think back to And I think of Billy Graham and Franklin Graham, how he strayed for so long. And look where he's at now.
Yeah.
I have family members too that are in that same boat that, were raised the same way I was taken to church every Sunday. And for some reason, the disconnect is just like, how are you so far from God? I don't know.
Well, I wonder too, because somebody said to me the other day about this girl's sister like used to go to church and be a Christian, but she's not a Christian anymore. And in my head, I'm thinking, then did she ever have an authentic relationship with the Lord, or was it a legalistic relationship where you do this, you show up for church, you wear the certain clothes, you know what I mean? Like, or did she have like, I don't think anybody who has an authentic relationship with the Lord truly walks away. I think you have seasons in life that can be hard, uh, but like to truly walk away and say, yeah, I'm not a Christian anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think they haven't had the heart change yet, because like once you have that, how do you ever go back?
Yeah, you don't walk away because Stanley used to have because he's Calvinist. I don't careist because either you love the Lord or you don't. So I don't care if you're Calvinist or Arminian or whatever. But we used to have that conversation because he would say like once saved always saved whatever and then he did say one day he said, well, could you walk away from the Lord? And I was like, no. He goes, all right. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's a different way of thinking though. If you think if you're truly saved, you would never walk away from the Lord. Is different, I think, in my head. Not that I think you lose salvation. Did you ever have it to begin with, is the question. Lori, you had unmuted there at one point. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, just that this spoke to me too, Janet, because just this morning I was sitting there thinking, where's my spark? And it said, restore the sparkle to my eyes. That just spoke to me this morning. And Amber, as far as you, what you're going through now someday might help someone else 10 times over.
I thought that too earlier.
Yeah.
That's
you'll be able to encourage them through rough times.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we can all say that at some point in our life and something that we go through. There's always something we gain.
My mom would always say, not that she was the epitome of wisdom, but she would always say, you're not poor until you have one potato and one can of soup. And I always remember that, like, and people come through the depression, they would see money a lot different than we do.
Well, Christy, I don't know if you remember, but when we were roommates, you and I.
Wait, let's have a private conversation. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
This is good. You and I may have been broke as per se our checkbook, but we were just so happy to have gas in our car, our rent paid. I remember that. And I remember you many times reminded me, hey, our rent's paid, we have gas in our car.
There's a laundromat right up the road.
Yes.
Any other thoughts? I like the contrast to the rejoice. Like I love that how long, showing the depth of the stress, but then the contrast of the rejoices in 4 and 5, where one was the enemy's celebration and the other one was David's confidence in God. And that confidence would have been based off of his prior faith building experiences. I don't know, Amber. I don't know that you did get them backwards because it says lament, ask, and then trust. I think the lamenting is.
Yeah.
But the lamenting develops the relationship too. Yeah.
And I feel like lamenting might be, I don't know. I feel like as lamenting, it's like crying out to God. Is that the same as like just not having the faith or trust in it? Like, is that?
Oh yeah, I would think
like there's no way this is going to work out.
This is my situation and what is happening and.
Right. I mean, we went through that when we were in Africa so many times. And that was the season where I was the most strongest in my faith. It was the biggest struggle of our life. But now it seems like it's the opposite. It's sort of frustrating. I don't know.
What were you saying, Kim?
Oh, I think the lamenting is relationship building because, you know, God wants us to talk to him. He wants us to converse with him and tell him how we feel. And then he gives us a different perspective, you know.
I was just talking to him about that this morning because like the 7 weeks that I was down at Blake's, like first thing I did when I woke up was like, oh Lord, just help me to like be positive and be kind and loving and remove any unclean thing from me, like when I wanted to throat punch daddy sometimes. And like how dependent I was on him in that 6 weeks and also people's prayers or 7 weeks. But then you get back into the easier life and then you're not as dependent, it feels like. But I guess you are. You're just not as lamented.
Did anybody read Tony?
No. Thank you, Kim, for the reminder. We got to talking and go ahead.
All right. 1 through 2. David feels forsaken by God and wrestles with thoughts of abandonment. 4 times in the first 2 verses, he asks, how long? He longed for God to intervene. It appeared that God was allowing David's enemy to dominate him. This is a common human experience. When we encounter trying circumstances during an extended period, we can feel abandoned by God and assume that evil is winning. David calls on God to answer and deliver him. As powerful as David was, as mighty as his army, he realizes that defeat is certain without God's intervention. Do you see things similarly? Do you recognize that your spiritual defeat is certain without the aid of God's strengthening hand? David has confidence in the Lord's faithful love, his commitment to his covenant, to his people, and to his king. Regardless of the actions of his enemy, then, David is determined to rejoice over the deliverance that he knew God would provide. Likewise, we should live with expectation in the goodness of God as we wait for him to move in our situations. He has treated us generously in the past. Let us sing and put our hope in him. The end.
That's short and sweet. All right, any other thoughts? Before we go on to trivia? All right, if not, you guys have to unmute. Julie, you playing? You're muted. She's writing notes, apparently.
I think she's trying to figure it out.
I'm trying to get unmuted.
Did you get report back from your test?
No, they said it would probably be at least 24, maybe 48 hours.
Okay. All right, here's the question. How long was the feast? Oh, wait a minute, Julie. I'm going to give you yesterday's first. Just to see.
Okay.
What country was Herod king of? Oh, I thought she would have. What?
I was going to say Judea.
You're right. I knew you would have it. Good job. Okay, here's today's. How long was the Feast of Unleavened Bread? In the
7 days.
7 days.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was 7 days, and you can find that in Exodus 12, verses 14 through 17. Good job.
And Janet.
Yes.
All right. All right, ladies, this concludes our study for today. Until tomorrow.
For sure.
For certain.
All right, love you all.
Love you too.
Love you.